Hey, welcome to Live with TFL, or the First Layer. This is our Ask for Help weekly show that we do to answer your questions about 3D printing. And with me today is my good friend Morgan Pierce. Everybody give Morgan a big hello and a thumbs up if you would in the chat.
Happy Sunday, everyone.
So how's things going over on your end of town?
Not bad. Happy Olympics, everyone. Calgary, of course, is the Olympic city, so if you're enjoying the Olympics, good on you. I've got one printer running. Did I get that wrong? No, that printer is not running. That printer's running. This one to my side here is not running as well, so got one going. That's all that you need.
As long as you got one, that's all you need.
As long as you got one. Yeah.
You know,
and how are you doing, Richard?
I'm actually doing pretty good today. A little bit of soreness in my knees, but that's from yesterday.
Par for the course.
Par for the course, yeah. You get older, that stuff happens. But
yep.
How it's going is I've gotten an enormous amount of questions over the last little while about filament and why filaments do what they do. So I thought today would be a good idea to sit down and let's talk about filament. Let's talk about why things do what they do. Why do certain filaments become brittle? What is all that about? And as we're moving into spring, we know our weather's changing. It's getting warmer, the temperatures, so that's creating more humidity in the air, no matter where you live. Even if you live in a dry climate like we do, you'll notice that the humidity is starting to go up in the air, and that can affect your filaments a lot.
Absolutely. Yep.
So I want you guys that are watching today, thank you, by the way, for tuning in with us on and spending some of your Saturday with us. I want you guys in the chat to kind of start telling us about the problems that you have with your filament as we come out of winter and into spring, and then in some places you get the wet season, which is a lot of rain, and that can cause a lot of humidity in the air as well. We had an enormous amount of humidity last year here, which is very odd for our region. But
yes,
now we have now with the proper tools and just some easy things that we can watch for will save our prints, B, the amount of filament that we're using, and it'll make you a happier printer. I saw something there really, really quick, something about Matter 3D. There it is. Cord, let's talk about filaments, Matter 3D. That is all LOL. Accord's got that right. Absolutely, he's got that right. And Accord, Matter 3D is, in my opinion, a unique filament in the market. I know you've been using a lot of it as well, Morgan. So I want to kind of, let's talk a little bit about it. I've been behind the scenes. I've seen how the secret sauce is made, so to speak. I took part in helping to make some of it. And it was very interesting to see how much raw material that they actually use. And there's nothing else in there. And I can tell you guys, from my own eyes, I have seen, and I'm putting together a video where we're going to do a kind of a how it's made of that filament. But I've seen how they mix it, make the color first, and then take it off and actually make filament. And guess what? There's only 2 ingredients in it. That's it. Color and the raw plastic. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, material sciences, it's a very interesting science in and of itself. I know Aman and his team there are well versed in it. Mm-hmm. And it's really interesting to see the science, frankly, that they are putting into their filament making processes, because we see the proof in it. I'm printing that printer in behind me there. That's got actually the white and the black from Matter 3D running right now. Gotcha. And, printing well. So, yeah.
Yeah, I really like their filament, and I think, yes, you have to print it a little hotter. I want to address Rick Landon's question there. If you can go back one, honey. Rick Landon. I want to kind of address that first.
I can read it for you if you want. Why is plastic and filaments vary from brand to brand, since that alloy is a trade secret? I think it was meant to say.
Okay. Yeah. Why is it a trade secret? Well, it is and it isn't. Depending on the manufacturer, you're going to get different grades of filament, and that can swing wildly from manufacturer to manufacturer, and it can actually swing within the actual product line of a same manufacturer. The reason is why prices can be done so cheaply is because there's all of the extras in there. They use what they call fillers, and those fillers are usually recycled plastic. For the most part, they're all recycled just to help bulk that up. They add more color. They make the color out of that soup of different plastics. They still use a good portion of raw plastic, but in order to cut down the use, get the most money out of their rolls, they fill it. And
Yeah.
it doesn't matter what you're getting on the marketplace today, who you're going with, what your favorite brands are. I'm a big fan of eSun. I really like their stuff. I really like Arion, but it's been hit and miss lately as well. I, of course, absolutely love Matter 3D. They've been sponsoring this show for a long time. We actually are going to be doing a build very soon with their stuff. So
I'm going to throw in one more for you, Rich,
sure.
too. Polyterra. I found they have they're using the cardboard rolls or whatever, the recycled material rolls, which is good for the environment.
Yep.
And it's a good quality print filament. It's very, very similar to Matter 3D, just in terms of getting availability and colors. Let's throw that in there too. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, there's a ton of really good stuff out there. Some of it's not super expensive. Some of it is expensive. But it all depends on who you're going with. I will never buy Sunlu filament ever again.
Yeah. And you get what you pay for.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Just because you see a deal for $15 or $20, do your homework. Make sure that is actually a quality filament. Ask around in forums. Ask us, for example.
Yeah.
Because what you're getting in that deal, you may be undoing things on your printer. You may be causing clogs. You may be causing issues to your extruder mechanisms. I've been there, done that. Learned my lesson. I don't go with cheap filament anymore. It's just not worth my time and effort.
Now, Andrew Osmond says he's had issues with Creality PLA Red acting like ABS on large prints, warping, and layer separation. What's going on? I can kind of touch on that. What's going on is, first and foremost, Andrew, did you go and do a temperature tower? This is something I recommend to everybody, that you do a temperature tower. If you're buying a new box of material, doesn't matter if you bought that material for 5 years, 10 years, doesn't matter. The material changes over time, and it changes from batch to batch. So, yep. Creality Red, that is another brand. They're just rebranding it Creality. They're not making their own. They're rebranding somebody else's. And it's not a very high quality material, to be honest with you. You might be getting it for a really good price. It's like the Amazon Basics filament. You can buy that sometimes at a really good price.
Which is now Overture, right?
I believe it is now Overture.
Yeah.
And there's another brand. They're hit and miss, but I like some of their stuff. Like, I really like their PET G. I really like their PLA. Their ABS suck. Yeah. Don't like their ABS.
Absolutely. And just to touch on the point you made there, you're about to make, I think, too, Richard. Think of the timeline of your filament. If you open it in January 1, and you print a little bit with it, hopefully you're putting it into one of these bags with the desiccant, because you want to control those environmental conditions. But if you don't print for it for 9 months, do another temperature tower again, the material characteristics of that filament may have changed. Moisture alone, but other things too. you might have to even dry that filament quite excessively to kind of get it back to that state, or it might never come back to that state. It's entirely possible that filament is just done.
Now, there's a couple of ways that you can tell if your filament has too much moisture in it. And this time of year, it's going to grab that moisture from the air as things start to warm up and we move into spring, is if it's brittle. In the case of PLA especially, and in the case of PETG, which are very hydroscopic, which means that they bring in those moisture molecules from the air. Soaking your filament in water to test that theory is ludicrous, because water doesn't act the same, water doesn't act the same as the moisture in the air. It's totally different sciences. So water itself is not going to absorb into that filament, but those moisture molecules from the air will. And that's just because of the nature of the raw material. Now, with that red acting like ABS, are you printing it at 240? Is your bed up to 100? Bring your bed back down to about 65. But Andrew, I would certainly do a temperature tower with that, especially just to find out where things are working. And you'll start up at that 240, and you'll go down to 190 on those temperature towers. If you go have a look at last year, you'll see.
This is a roll I've had out only for a couple months, and it's already brittle.
Yeah.
So I need to figure that out, or just it's almost done. So it's probably done.
And there's ways to keep your filament in good shape for a long period of time. And there are commercial things. The first one I'm going to talk about is the EBO Cyclops. You guys can see I've got one of these. EBO sent me one of these a couple of years ago. I did a review on it. You can go check that out on the YouTube channel. And I use it. I like it. I only use it when, you've got one back there as well. You've got some Matter 3D in there. I only use it when I'm using, higher hydroscopic materials, much like PETG or nylon. These are great when you're using those types of filaments because you can keep it in an environment that's warm. If you look down on the bottom, I'm just going to pull the lid off. If you look down here, you can see that there is a heat sink under there, and then there is a fan that circulates the heat inside this unit, and it does get warm. I love this thing. I think it works great. And there's that fan on the bottom that pulls that air in and, makes it warm. Now, you've got another one from EBOS that I've never seen before.
I do. So this is the Ease Dry, EASDRY. You will find it on their website. It is designed for one spool of filament only, unlike the other one you just showed there.
Yeah.
It's got a nice little mechanism there to pull down the cover. The element that you're just talking about is right in there. And it comes with two little nylon bands that help hold it in place there.
Okay.
And, power on the back, of course. You've got your hygrometer there.
Mm-hmm.
And it does just have a dial. So they're preset ranges, but they tell you on their website what each range goes to. So I've been finding, there's a section here between PLA and TPU. I found that's really good for pretty much everything run-of-the-mill besides ABS, even PETG. So
right.
Great little unit, cheaper price than the dual one, but then a little more portability. So good unit. I've been zero issues, and I purchased these back on their Black Friday sale. So been very pleased with them.
Now, I'm going to show you guys another one here in just a few minutes, but Andrew Osmond said, yes, temp towers done along with stringing. Stringing is a byproduct of a couple of things. It can be a byproduct of too much moisture in your filament. That is one. Number two is that you might be printing at too high a temperature and you're just getting that little bit of leakage that's causing the stringing. Retraction, if your temperature's too high on the plastic, it's going to ooze. It's going to be past that good melting point, and it's going to ooze out. going to grab the part and it's going to give you stringing. There's nothing short of bringing down that temperature, increasing your retraction a little bit to get or to minimize that amount of stringing. You may never get rid of it, and depending on some filaments, I've noticed like PETG is notorious for stringing. Anybody who's printed with PETG knows if you're printing multiple parts, you're going to get strings between them. And it's a fine balancing act when you want to get rid of that stringing. So check the filament first, check to see if it's brittle. Secondly, do those temp towers. Make sure that you've got, if you're doing it in Cura, and this is something I'm going to go back to here in a little while. I'm going to do another video on this where we talk about retraction specifically, because if you're not in the default range in Cura, if you're using Cura, and I know a lot of people do, just set it back to default range and adjust it from there up or down. That will either increase or decrease your string. So tackle one problem at a time. Let's look at the filament first, see if it's got too much moisture in it. Secondly, let's set everything back to default. Let's do a temperature tower with those different temperatures. If there's a lot of stringing, we may have to increase our retraction. If we're getting holes in our print, we may have to decrease that retraction. So just a couple of things to keep in mind when you're dealing with stringing. Those are the steps that I would go through first. And first, check for moisture. Second, do another temperature tower. Couldn't better cooling solutions also help with PETG stringing, snapshot FPV? Yes, it can. And I'll tell you a little bit about cooling solutions and PETG, and I'm sure that you've done this as well, Morgan. PETG, if you apply too much cooling, you get separation and you get shrinkage, just like ABS. If you don't apply enough cooling, you get a lot of stringing. So
yeah, there's definitely a sweet spot.
Yeah, there's definitely a sweet spot. I found in my environment here, because it's dry and it's warm, I find that we typically set ours at about 25 to 30% cooling, and I don't start that cooling till it's hit about that fifth layer. So it's something to check in your slicer, and that can certainly help. If you've got too much, again, if you've got too much, it's just going to separate, and it's going to shrink really fast. It may be curling down in the corners.
And I can say, be prepared to spend the time with PETG. There is a learning curve to it. I tore my hair out for a while. You just have to spend the time, figure out those variables like Rich is talking about, and you'll get there. It's not like PLA. It's a whole other animal.
Ben's bringing up a good point here. He says PLA has a shelf life. It gets brittle. Moisture molecules will break the polymer chain molecules down into monomer molecules. It does no good to dry PLA. You can't restore the polymer chains. That's very true, but by keeping it dry from the beginning, can extend that shelf life. If you're not storing it properly, here's the biggest problem I find with people that want to store their filament. And this is no slight against anybody, but when people store their filaments, they just think, okay, I'm going to throw it back in the bag. I'm just going to Ziploc it. But you still have all that air trapped in there. What you want to do is get that air out of the bag as much as you can. If you can get little vacuum bags with a little vacuum pump, great. Do those, because they work amazingly well.
I can show and tell one of those too.
Yeah.
So here's one from Ibos. I actually just threw this in here this morning.
Okay.
I haven't vacuumed it, but it's got the little valve there, and as long as you position it so you're not depressing the valve from the inside once it is vacuumed, then you're good to go. Another tip, just along those lines, Rich, if you permit me here.
Sure. Yeah. Absolutely.
You can print these. Sorry for the noise. But you can print these little jobbies here. I'll find the link and post it. But basically, what's inside here it's shaking, is actually just loose desiccant, which also absorbs the moisture. And it's great because you throw in a little hygrometer into that too on the top of it there, and then it conveniently fits inside the roll, so you can easily see what's happening with that filament over its storage life cycle.
That is a great idea. That is a super tip. Speaking of things like that, you guys might remember a couple of years ago I made this. What is this? This is my drying container, or my dry box, as I like to call it, that can hold up to 4 rolls of filament. As you can see, I've got 4 rolls in there now. They all roll. The little hoses coming out are for the filaments that are in there. This was just made with a simple IKEA box. I think the whole thing came to about $20, maybe $25 to build it. I built it so long ago. But we still use this quite often when we're doing stuff. I'll dry out some filament when I get it, especially nylons. I'll dry them out in here, or in the IBOS or the EBOS, and then I will turn around and put it into here to go into my machine. Now, this thing is a great alternative to spending a lot of money. That's easy to build. If you want to know, I'm going to put the link in the description right now, so you guys can go and check out that video if you want to build one of those.
Yeah, and another thing, people have done this too, but I'll just throw out there too. Homegrown solutions. You can take a food dehydrator. There's models on Thingiverse, and it's not a perfect solution. It's not as good as that IBOS, but if it's what you have, if you have one of those old food dehydrators kicking around and just
they work
sitting
great
there and doing nothing, you can set it to 50 as long as you set a timer for yourself. Remember to turn it off and not overcook your filament. You've got a homegrown solution.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Let's talk about the expansion of filament. If your filament is kept in a warm place, too warm, let's say it's next to your winter register, your registers for your air conditioning and heating in your house, your HVAC. If you're storing it next to someplace that's getting constant heat and it's coming out, that can actually swell your filament. That's something a lot of people don't know, is that too much heat can swell that filament before you even get to use it. Now, Andrew Osmond says, new out of the box after Temp Tower had the same issue. If it's new, out of the box, send it back. Yeah.
Yep.
Don't, if you've just printed a Temp Tower, send it back, because that means that either the batch, they had not a very good batch, and I'm going to say because of the cheap filament that Creality uses,
who knows what's in that?
Yeah, you have no clue what's in there. So it's going to be different from batch to batch to batch. So find a filament that you like. I know that a lot of people want to save pennies, and I'm the first one to be on that boat as well. But you said it earlier, you get what you pay for. And when you're buying filaments that are less than $20, actually less than 25, I've found that anything under that 25 range usually is crap. Doesn't last long. It's brittle right out of the package. It has moisture issues. It's not been sealed well. Peter's asking, Morgan, do you have a link to that desiccant holder?
Yep, I'm on it.
Excellent. We actually should build one of those on the show.
Oh yeah, they're and it's such a great print because I just end of rolls. It's like, what do you do with that stuff?
Yeah.
Well, print desiccant holders. Who cares what color they look like or what material, frankly? All they got to do is hold it and screw on a lid. So, yeah, it's a great find.
I think I'm going to print one of those for myself. We'll do some testing with it. Because I do have another hygrometer in the dry box. So I think that might be a good Good thing. Ben Brady says there's filament and then there's chillament.
Huh.
I'm not sure what he means by chillament, but yeah. It's filament is a fickle mistress. I'll say it like that. It's a fickle mistress because you can have filament that works great and go through rolls like crazy, and then you go to replenish it because it's on sale from somebody else, and the new filament that you bought doesn't work worth a shit. And then the first person you contact is somebody that you know and go, why do I have this problem? Or you go back to where you bought it if you bought it from a local retailer. And I can't tell you how many times that, people have come in with filament when I was over at school saying this filament doesn't work and half the roll's gone. Well, if half the roll's gone, you're obviously bringing it back because it worked.
Yeah.
And it's not always the problem in the print of the filament. Sometimes it might be the settings of the machine. So there's several different factors to look at before you start blaming filament. Go through those steps. Do that temperature tower. Check the retraction. Check the heat. Make sure that you're doing everything that you need to do to get the best possible print out of your printer. I've got an old Ender 3 sitting back here. You guys can see there it's been somewhat modified. And at this stage of the game, I've been using that the last few days. I've been printing a bunch of stuff on it. I just printed a bunch of golf trophies for a client of mine. And I got to tell you, that little thing, that machine works great. I've got some crap filament on it right now. But it is working. It does clog up a little bit every once in a while. Like after a print's done, if you want to go to another print, it won't sometimes do that. It'll clog up, but you get in there, you clean it out. And if you're finding that it's clogging a lot, this is another thing. If you find that your machine is clogging a lot, go ahead, strip it all down, clean it all up, heat up that nozzle and as hot as you can get it on your machine, and let it cook whatever's in there out so it all comes out. You can take a little tool, poke it down in there. I've got one like this in mine. My drawers here. Let me there it is. You guys probably can't hear me when I'm off camera, but one of these. Just a little piece of wire, stiff wire, like a paper clip even, and push it down through that whole hot end, right from the top, right down through. And what you're going to hear first and foremost is a little, it's almost like it's going to fart at you. And it's going to push all of that stuff that's been sitting on the walls out. It's like giving your hot end an enema.
And if you don't have one of those, you could also use like a 1.5 Allen key.
Yeah,
probably do the trick.
Smallest Allen key, yeah. 1.5 millimeter Allen key works really well as well.
Just be careful. Don't scrape the insides of your heat break too badly. Don't scar it. Just take your time, like you said, heat it up.
Yeah. By heating it, this is what I found is the easiest way to clean a jam. By heating it up to its top temperature, leaving it there for a good 5 minutes to cook everything off the walls of the off the inside of the nozzle, off the heat break. Then you drop in one of these, just poke all that stuff through, and some is going to stick to the end. Be aware that some is going to stick to the end and it's going to come back. It's like doing an atomic pull without using nylon filament. Not everybody has nylon filament to do an atomic pull, and not a lot of people understand how to do an atomic pull. And we're going to talk about that in a later episode. Rick Landon made a great comment there. He says, cheap filament is made of regrind. And you're not wrong about that. A lot of cheap filament is made from regrind. And it is, again, you don't know what was in the original recipe. I know from being at Matter 3D, there's just two. That's it. The color and the actual polymer. And you don't know what they've put in there. They could have put in, 6 different regrinds of 6 different colors and added black to make it black. The Zanska, how's your Voron going? The Voron's done. I've printed a few things with it. I really like it. I have to put the sides on it yet. I still haven't enclosed it. I have to do that. But it works great. I really like it. I'm going to pull the 2 boards on it first, and I'm going to put in my octopus board. I have an octopus board. So I'm going to be pulling that and the 2 SKR boards that are in there, and just go with the 1 board. I think it's far easier. I can eliminate some of the wiring, that kind of thing. So, hey, let's pay some bills real quick. This live stream is sponsored by Mars Hydro. Mars Hydro has everything that you need for your indoor horticultural needs. We're going to be using Mars Hydro products in some upcoming videos where we're testing plastics underneath one of their high-intensity grow lights, the TS-1000. Mars Hydro at marshydro.com for all your indoor growing needs. If you want to grow vegetables all year round, it's a great idea. So now that we've paid that bill. Lately, I've been using eSun's filament. Cleaning filament seems to do a good job. Hard to push through sometimes. I did an episode on cleaning filament. And while it does work, it's kind of gimmicky.
Yeah.
I feel it's kind of gimmicky. What do you think, Morgan?
Well, I just happened to grab some here. I've spent money on this. I think you have to sort of, use it for the intended purpose. And so, I think it's probably more of a preventative than necessarily a fix. I think if you're switching from, PETG to PLA to ABS, nylon, whatever, you're doing all these switches. If you don't have the time, or you're not doing the heating step and you're not flushing it all out, you can use this to encourage it. It's basically a medium that you're encouraging all those other particulates out of your hot end. I think that's probably the intended purpose, although it's marketed as this wonder cure. So I take a grain of salt. It's not the wonder cure. Try it. Ultimately, I do subscribe to the cold pull, getting everything out of there. But I think as a preventative between types of filament changes, I think it's probably a good step.
There you go. Some people like it. Some people think it's great. Hey, Accord XTC, yep. Thank you very much for that. Let's hit that like button. We've got 38 viewers, and we've only got 19 likes. Hit that like button if you like what you're hearing today and you're having a good time, and we're filling in your questions for you. That's what we want to do.
It was like number 20.
Dominic, I printed parts for my Hero Me Gen 6 using the twin 5015 fans from my Ender 5. Photos in Discord. Should I drop fan speed to 50% or more? What's the best test model to calibrate fan speed? Any model. Any model is great for calibrating fan speed. If you're using PETG, again, start low and work your way up till you hit that sweet spot.
And you can do the same thing as with a temp tower. It's basically you turn a temp tower into a fan test tower. You can apply the same technique. You're just changing the fan speed on those successive layers as opposed to the temperature. Same thing.
The other thing here is he's using twin 5015s. Those are a fairly big fan. So if you're using that big a fan, you're pushing a lot more air than the little fans do. The 40s, like going up even that 10 millimeters, significantly increases by about 20% the amount of air that you're pushing through. And if you've got 2 of those, now you're doubling that plus.
Yeah.
You know,
It's a lot of CFM.
yeah, that's a lot of CFM moving around that hot end and around that print head. So
Yeah.
what I would do personally is I would probably start low and then move up, just to
Yeah,
find the
because
sweet
you'll just
spot.
be cooling that filament pretty much as soon as it flies out of the hot
Yeah,
end.
and while that's good for certain PLAs, like I mean, on PLA you definitely want to have that 100%
Yeah.
fan going, but that's the nature of PLA.
And I mean, if the goal is to print really fast, well, then that probably makes sense.
Yeah, exactly.
But you're going to hit a limit of something at some point. Physics, I mean, just stop talking there.
Seeds for the grow box. Send a list. What type of seeds are we going to use in our grow box? We are using two different seeds, and the grow box is in the other room right now. If you'd like to entertain people, I'll go get it.
All right. Doing a bit of rewiring on my Ender 3 V2. I typically print ABS on it. I am planning to make the power supply external to my enclosure. Should I do the same thing with the board? So I'm assuming you mean the board of the printer. If my assumption's wrong, then please correct me in the chat. If you're going to go with very high temperatures, I would say you will want to isolate it. You'd have to find out what the operating temperature actually is of that board. There's usually environmental limits to what you can run a piece of hardware at. So if your enclosure is going to get very, very hot, then you will want your electronics external to that enclosure because you'll just cook them. I'm looking at the Sanksa's, yeah, she's got on the screen, yeah.
Yeah, I'm doing a bit of rewiring on my Industry V2. I typically print ABS on it. The external power supply, that's fine. Should you do the same with the board? I would leave the board. Well, that's kind of depends how hot it gets in the environment in which it is.
Yeah.
If that environment is getting way too hot, like you're not exhausting that hot air out of the cabinet in some way, it may get too hot. It will shorten the life of the board naturally, but other than that, yeah.
Well, and similar to PC cooling,
exactly.
You'll want to exhaust the heat from those components. So you obviously will not want to exhaust the heat specifically from around that board into the chamber, but you will want to exhaust it if there's egress from the chamber to the board area. Get that heat out of there. To your point, Richard, it'll extend the life of that.
Absolutely.
Electronics.
Yeah, the electronics. The funny thing about electronics is they get really hot really fast. So that's why they invented things like heat sinks and fans. Here's a good example. I've got a what is this? This is a Raspberry Pi B+, 3B+. There needs to be a heat sink right there. There also needs to be a heat sink right there. If you put heat sinks on this chip, and this chip on the back, it's going to dramatically improve the life of this particular mini computer. If you put heat sinks on the chips that need them on your Ender 3 board, or any other board for that matter, you use heat sinks in the right spots, they will help to dissipate the heat off the chip, but you're still going to need some movement of air to keep all of that cool, just like you would in a computer. So getting back to that question about what's going in the planter, we are going to be planting some herb basil, and we are going to be planting some herb parsley in this container, which can be found on the Prusa Models website. It is 2 pieces, well, more than 2 pieces. You can see that in the bottom here there is a float, and that's what this is. It will move up and down with the water level. So when you put water in it, this is going to come up and show you that you've got enough water. On this section, this is the section that you put your dirt in, and you can see that there's these two little sections on the bottom. What these do is they wick that water up and into the soil in which you have in here. So you never have to water the top of your soil. You may come by and spritz it every once in a while, but you're never going to be watering your soil like you would normally with a watering can. So this is what they call a self-watering. And this is all done in Matter 3D PLA. The only parts that aren't done in Matter 3D PLA are these pieces, because I wanted them in ABS, because they're going to be sitting in water, and there's going to be earth in them to wick up that water. So I wanted these to hold up. I want to see how this outer shell holds up over time. In the summertime, we'll put it in the window, but right now we're going to be putting it underneath that Mars Hydro TS-1000 tent and going that route. And really, this is very simple print. This will take you probably a good few days to print. Make sure that you print this 100% solid. No, 100% infill, and same thing with the outer jacket, 100% infill, and you'll have a nice solid planter that should last you years.
And won't leak, sorry.
Yes, and won't leak. I have tested this. We put water in it for about a week and left it in probably one of the most precarious places we could on the kitchen table with nothing underneath it. No trays, no nothing. Left it on the kitchen table.
I like it.
No leakage at all. So that's something to keep in mind. And we're going to be putting parsley and basil in here. We're going to separate it so we have parsley on one side, basil on the other.
It's a great idea. I've been looking at growing some mint.
Oh yeah, some mint. That would
maybe I should do that too. Yeah, great for cocktails.
Can you waterproof PLA and PETG with marine type epoxy for a 3D printed RC boat? Mark Baker. Yes, absolutely you can. You can put epoxy just about on anything. If it's an epoxy that has a really high temperature flash, which means it gets really, really hot, you may want to put it on your PLA and your PETG in thinner layers. So brush on thin layers, give it a sand, brush on another thin layer, give it a sand. When it's dry, a couple of good coats, good thin coats, and you should be fine for your RC car, or RC boat. I think that would work out just fine.
I totally agree with that, and I don't know if this guy covers it, but I had a brainwave. There's a guy who had a 3D printed kayak a few years back. Mm-hmm. He might have done some. I suspect he did some coding there as well. So I'll just paste that in the chat here too. It's a really interesting video, even if you're not doing waterproofing. It's kind of cool. You know, the other thing that you can use is clear resin, clear photo resin, which you can get for your 3D printers. And basically all you're going to do is just pour it in a tray, make sure that you're not under any UV lights, brush it on in thin layers, cure it with a UV light, and go ahead and you should be very good. Mike Kennedy's asking, question about 3DZ offset probe, but for Z homing, can you give more details? Z homing. When you do Z homing, if I'm not wrong about this, what it's going to do is going to set that home position to where what the Z offset is. So if by default it is, you notice that when it goes to your home position and it comes up, that space is the offset. And it will be represented by a number over the Z on your display. And that number will usually be somewhere between 10 and 12. And if you see that it's above 10, you'll notice that when it goes down, you're actually in a minus. So if your Z says 12.5, that 0 to 10 is that normal offset. That 2.5 above it is actually a minus number. So it's going to go below 0 to set that nozzle at the right spacing to your bed.
The Z probe is the center of the bed. Do you have a blog post for this? I do not yet. But I've done a couple of videos on doing Z offset. So you can go and check those out on the first layer right here on this channel. It will certainly help you.
Pasting that into the chat there. Your
Excellent.
Video on easy Z offset adjustment.
Z offset adjustments are not complicated once you understand how they work. They're hard to explain.
It's not really like it's not intuitive. But then once you understand the process and what you are doing, then it is fairly easy.
Well, I got to say hi to a fella that I haven't talked to in a long time. The real Sam Prentice is here in our chat room today with our good friend Tim from DeWitt 3D Canada. Sam Prentice, for anybody that doesn't know, Sam Prentice is a R2-D2 builder, and he builds his R2-D2s using 3D printing. Or Droid builder building using 3D printing to build his droid. Sam, I want to get Sam on the show at some point in time. I know where he is. It's evening or later in the evening. I think we're 7 or 10 hours apart. Yeah, Sam, we definitely want to have you on the show to talk about those trials and tribulations of printing droid. I know there's a lot.
An amazing show.
That's going to be a fun show. Yeah, I think I'm going to have him on as a live guest here sometime very soon.
This was not 3D printed, but this is the guy, a droid of the guy at Olga's Cantina at Disney World, and I just had to get it because it moves and it has Bluetooth and lots of fun. So I would love to.
I actually have one myself. Not Rex. I have R2 in the back, which I've affectionately named Artie, R2T1 for the first.
Perfect.
So Artie is going to be showing up in some videos very soon. We're going to be doing some fun stuff with him. May the 4th is coming up, so I'm trying to prep some stuff for May the 4th. We're going to do a little Star Wars special.
Well, let me know if you want to borrow the DJ guy too. You can borrow him.
Maybe I'll have to have the two of them together because they will interact, from what I understand.
It's a play date.
That's a play date. There we go. Sam Prentice, I definitely want to have you on the show, and we're going to make it happen. We're gonna make it happen for sure.
Love it.
I want to talk droids. I want to talk 3D printing droids, and I want people that are Star Wars fans like myself. You can see all the Star Wars stuff in the background that I love doing, and there's still. I found this guy the other day. I was digging through some stuff.
Nice.
My little Funko bobblehead of the pilot. I always wanted to be an Imperial pilot, but I think I'm too fat for the jumpsuit.
Hey, if they can strap John Candy into an outfit, you're good to go.
Perhaps. Psyching myself out to make a big droid now that I have a big printer, LOL. You know what? Don't psych yourself out. Building a droid is just like building anything else in this wonderful world with 3D printing. It just takes more time. And I don't know the strength, and hopefully Sam will come up with something there, but I don't think that there's any real problems. If you print the parts correctly, they're going to last. They're not going to sag under their own weight. But if you don't do it correctly, you could run into problems. And if you're not using the right filament as well, and I think, Sam, you use PLA for the most part, or do you use PET-G? I'm trying to figure out which one he uses. I know that ABS would be a much better material for that. It would last longer. It'd be a little bit stronger. But do you have a printer big enough to print all those parts? That's the other side note to that. Thanks. More details. I'm converting a BFB 3000 to a Duet 3D Wi-Fi. This unit had 2 nozzle, but the board died. So just finished up the wiring, Duet 3 Wi-Fi. Do I have experience with this board? I have very little experience with this board. I sold a lot of them when I was at school. People like the Duet 3Ds. They think they're an amazing board. I've never really used one. I never saw the benefit to paying that kind of money for that board when there's other boards on the market that kind of do the same thing. I always equate the Duet being more of an industrial board, more so than a consumer board. Is it going to work for you?
Definitely a business board.
Yeah.
Because the price point, I was looking at it recently too, and I'm just like, I can't justify it. But yeah, if I was doing continuous operation, okay, that's probably a good way to go there. Spend the money on it. But yeah, I'd say you're up to talking to their technical support or forums.
Yeah, forums are going to be your best bet on that. The Duet board, wiring that thing up can be a bit of a challenge, but there's a lot of Duet forums out there. I believe there's quite a few Reddit threads on it.
He does say that the board died. So are you just getting if you're getting no power on that board, or? I mean, it's a board is a board. If it's simply dead in the water, hopefully you're within your warranty period and you can contact the manufacturer.
Yeah.
Get a replacement. That's your best bet. Absolutely. Don't waste your time. If it's under warranty, I mean, yeah, you got to wait for shipping and all that stuff, but it's their issue.
I want to just bring up Sam Prentice here, honey. The last couple of Sam Prentice ones. He says, I use both, but the infill direction and layers are key when you're doing droids. He also mentions here that PLA and PETG, he uses both of them on the new builds. He's using polycarbonate, nylon, and TPU, which I think are amazing materials. And again, there's a learning curve to learning TPU, especially, and nylon.
Sam, I'd be curious, since we're talking about filaments here, what is your go-to filament, or your brand, maybe your top 3 even? I'd be curious to hear what you, since you've done so much printing, what are your faves?
Yeah, I'd be interested to know what brands you're using as well. And I mean, that can help out a lot of people that are looking at building droids. The old board died, Mike Kennedy says, and if the old board died, Mike,
Yep. So I'm guessing he got a replacement then? I'm guessing he got a replacement.
Yeah.
So he's probably trying to avoid the same mistake. Yeah. It's homework time. I don't know what to say. Yeah, it's
definitely homework time for you. If the old board died, you go and check the forums, especially forums around that particular board and using it with your particular printer. Polymaker all day long, he says. Polymaker. I've never used Polymaker myself. I'd like to get a couple of rolls and try it out. How about you, Morgan? Have you ever used Polymaker?
I have used it, and I would definitely tout it as premium, good filament, very good material properties. So yeah, I played with they have some really neat colors. I grabbed some stuff from filaments.ca a few years back, but definitely more of a European base brand, I believe. So unless you can get a Canadian or North American place that's reselling it, you might pay a little bit more.
I think Polymaker is sold by, you can get it from filaments.ca, I believe.
Yeah, in Canada for sure.
I think you can also get it from 3D Printing Canada. Those are the 2 places I think you can get it.
You will pay a little more for it, of course.
Right.
It is a premium.
Yeah, because they have to bring it in.
Yep.
So I'm saying it's not just because I'm sponsored. There is key information on all their materials, which is just amazing. The blends are crazy good.
That'd be an interesting thing for Sam to, if he is interested, just throwing this idea out there, do a comparison, print a droid with Matter 3D.
Yeah. Maybe we should hook him up with Matter 3D.
Yeah.
DeWitt saying he's yet to try Polymaker. One day he will. I'd like to try Polymaker myself. I've never tried it, to be perfectly honest. I've tried some great brands in the past, and I think they've got some really cool stuff out there, but you're paying that premium for them.
Yeah, I printed with their Vertigo Starlight. It was really cool, and a really cool ruby red or something like that. Just some really, if you're looking for different colors, different blends, yeah, to his point, can definitely confirm.
Yeah, I've used 3D Fuel, which is an architectural filament. What an amazing filament. Love that stuff. It's right up there, but it's pricey. It's pricey. Mike Kennedy.
But
go ahead.
their Workday PLA is also really good stuff. I was actually using that before Matter 3D came along. So it's same quality, and I think they're very similar in their material characteristics.
Yeah, it is an amazing filament, and I definitely want to try it. Mike Kennedy, so far the Duet 3D Wi-Fi is working good. Just need to get the Z probe getting to work. Moore's Z probe from the old system used a magnet switch in the center of the bed, homing code to get it to work. Okay, well, you found a workaround.
I've got some spaghetti in the background, folks.
Uh-oh. Oh, I hear it.
Yeah.
So this guy by the name of Raymond Cleveland, I don't know what this guy's about, but yeah, my brother was trying to change the hot end on my Ender 5 with the micro Swiss hot end. The set screw on the heater coil is stripped, and I'm unable to get it out. Suggestion. You can drill it out. Heat up the hot end. You know, get yourself some space, heat up that hot end, and then you can get in there, and you should probably, what's happened is there's a little bit of filament probably stuck in there. If you heat it up, get your Allen key in there, and you should be able to loosen it up enough to either to cause a heater error, or enough to loosen it up that you can pull it out and get the heater cartridge out of there when everything's cooled down. That should work out. And if you have any more problems, you know where to call me. Seems like a shifty character, this Raymond Cleveland. He is the least shiftiest character you're ever going to meet. He is my brother. He is the brother that I can call my best friend. We've always had stuff in common ever since I was knee-high to a grasshopper. He was the one who got me started in rocketry when I was a kid, and we had a lot of fun. We both drew. We both did art. He painted. I was not much of a painter. I was more of a sketch artist. We both were into music, and I went the entertainment route, and he went the corporate route. So, but we're still great friends today, and I can't say enough good things about my brother Ray. So there we go. Oh, Ray says he tried that, a no-go. So you can also drill that little set screw out. Just take the whole hot end and put it on your bench, and take a small drill and just drill it out, because you're not going to be using that heat block anyway. That should work for you just fine, I would think.
Mm-hmm.
Keep up the great channel, Mike says. Thank you very much, Mike. Really appreciate that.
Yeah, let us know how it went, how it goes with your duet. Let us know.
Yeah, let us know more about that.
Where that ends up.
Well, wow. That was a fast hour, man.
It flew by. I looked down at one point, I was like, it's 12:40 already? Local time.
The hour has
time flies when you're having fun, as they say.
The hour has gone by. Thank you very much, Accord. He says, thanks to Richard and Morgan for another great Sunday stream. Hope everyone has a great weekend. I hope everybody has a great weekend, a great week coming up. We're going to have some wonderful weather here. Go ahead and leave a like if you haven't already on this video. And please go back after the video is done and just put in a comment, if you will. It only takes a minute of your time. It really helps our algorithm or the YouTube algorithm. And it helps us get seen by more people, therefore driving up our subscriptions, therefore helping us out monetarily as well. Rick Landon, you are always welcome. Thank you to all of our members that were in the chat today. Do appreciate that. We've got a live stream for our members coming up here in another week. I'm working on that. I'm going to be back over at Peter Reynolds this week on Thursday, and we are going to be putting some more work into his Voron 2.4 350 build. Yesterday, we managed to get all of the X and Z gantries all done. Yes, let's give Jerry some love. She's been doing some great stuff over there. Give some love to Jerry. Everybody give her send her kisses or hugs or whatever you want to send her. She feels lonely over there. She doesn't have a microphone anymore.
I'll give her a thumbs up.
There we go.
Don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell.
If you're new here, hit that subscribe button. It helps a lot as well. So until we see you guys next time, remember that the first layer is always your foundation to a great print. Thanks again to Morgan for joining me and being my co-host this week. Brian will be back at some time in the future. I'm not sure exactly when, but he will be. Remember to hit that like button, and we will see you guys all again next week. We're working on some new episodes, so they are coming. So until we get the new episodes, we're going to keep doing these live streams, and we just cleaned up the studio. Now I got to take more stuff out of the studio again. But
it looks very nice there, Rich. Honestly,
yeah,
it looks very nice. I like the incandescence or whatever those lights are. It looks cool. So
well, we had these in the old studio at Spool 3D, and I was using. Before I let everybody go, I got to tell you, I was using those lawn lights that you get for Halloween. They cast the colors up on your house. You know, you put them on the lawn. Oh
yeah, the floodlight.
Yeah, that's what all that color was back here. One was up in each corner, but the motors on them are so freaking noisy that you can actually hear them, and I have to gate the mic so it doesn't pick it up.
Oh, jeez.
So. Sam, we're going to be in touch very soon, and I want to get you on the show and do an interview with you and talk all about 3D printing and 3D printing droids. So we'll be in touch, and we'll see you guys all next week. Until we see you then, have a great week, guys.
Take care, folks. Thank you.
And we're out.
Yay!